Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSPmagazine. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
There we go.
Marco.
Sean, why are you in the car?
I'm dreaming about cars, so I'm just hanging out in a car today.
You wanted to get in character. I think that's what's going on here.
I felt like I needed to be one with the automobile today for this conversation. Exactly.
And so the question come spontaneous. Now, first thing, there's people going to listen to this, so the description, it's easy. If you're not watching, Sean is in a car and we have a guest, which we are about to introduce. And I'm in my same usual office. And for those watching, yeah, you can see Sean is in a car because, Sean, tell us, why are we in a car? Why are you in a car? I'm not in a car.
Well, nobody cares why I'm in a car, but we're talking about cars today for an event that is looking at what I'll call the ecosystem of autonomous vehicles and digital systems in vehicles, whether they're autonomous or not. There's a lot of tech in the space of automobiles, and I presume our guest you'll introduce in a second, Marco, who is Michael.
You just did.
Might have some. I did. Might have some stat. I forget how many. It was years ago. How many millions of lines of code was in a Jeep or a BMW or something like that. But anyway, cars are basically computers on wheels, right? And who knows, maybe the wheels are even computers at this point. But we're going to talk about an event where all this stuff is being discussed and presented, and innovation is happening, and I'm excited, Marco, to talk about cars. I like cars.
I'm really excited. I mean, you know how many times, even when we talk about cybersecurity or advanced technology, the car example always come up. Even when we talk about security, we always mention, the seatbelt and how it was hard to adopt and all of that. And now, like you said, we're dealing with computers, electronics, and autonomous cars and so forth. And that's what this event is about. So without further ado, Mykolas Mataciunas, I think I pronounced that correctly, is here with us, and he is going to talk about this event. But first, he's going to tell us who he is and why he got involved into this kind of event. How about that? That's a good start. Michael, go for it.
Marco, Sean, thank you so much for the introduction. So, as Marco mentioned, my name is Michael. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Inlinum, and our company is organizing B2B conferences for automotive industry. So we're mainly doing this for electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and then the production of vehicles. And the event that Marco and Sean mentioned, the ICA summit that will happen next month in Frankfurt, is focusing on everything that makes our cars autonomous or helps us to drive it on the road, and of course the connectivity. So not only with our own technology, but as well with the infrastructure, roads, road signs, and so on.
And that's a big point. I like that you already went there, because when we talk about all the cars can do now, it's not just the car itself. You need the infrastructure, and that's one of the barriers. For example, I know for large adoption of electric cars, and I'm sure for connectivity as well, and all the IoT that is going on. So that's really a good point that I want to make a note, because I want to talk about that as we go. But tell me, this is the third time, I believe, that this event happens. So how's it been going so far? I guess good, because you're doing it again, but tell me more.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much we started the first edition of this event in 2021. And if you you probably recall that it was still a middle of pandemic, and I think this is what helped us to propel our conference, because back then, there weren't no conference that would be happening on site, especially in Europe, because we had travel restrictions, we had event restrictions. It was very, very difficult. But our company focused on face-to-face interactions, even during these difficult times, and people really appreciate that because they want to discuss the technologies, the innovations on site. They want to feel it, see it, and you cannot do that only through a screen. So the next year was even better. So we had minimal restrictions on traveling and on, let's say, events. So we gathered even more people, even more professionals to discuss it. And now for the third edition, we are trying to make something really special for everyone that will be attending, gathering, top people from the industry, top experts that will share where we are going with autonomous and connected vehicles.
Well, so many paths I can take here. Either what are some of the things that people want to see and touch versus who are some of the people you're going to have there and what are they going to talk about? Let's go with the who's there and what they're talking about first.
So pretty much we are gathering OEMs, we are gathering the tier ones, so with the main suppliers, let's say like Bosch or Valeo or Aptiv. From OEMs, we're pretty much having not only the German brands like Volkswagen or Mercedes-Benz or whatever, but also we have, let's say, brands that you usually don't think about when you speak about connectivity and autonomous vehicles. That would be Lotus and Lamborghini. They also have departments. They also have a lot of people working on these things to bring, let's say, their vehicles to be more safe and more connected for their customers.
Yeah, I have to say that when we got in touch and I looked at the amount and the big names of speakers that you have there, I was like, wow, we have to talk about this. I am blown away by the amount of people, as you mentioned, few of them, and I can see you also have Toyota, you have Volkswagen. I mean, you name it, Continental, and so on. I'm just scrolling through. Is there a theme that it's kind of you think is going to be prevalent during this year conversation? I mean, I'm sure you know about some of the talk coming up. Are they focusing on something specific, or it's kind of all over the places?
Well, the thing is that, especially when we're speaking about autonomous vehicles, so we are facing a lot of, let's say, pushback from the regulations, and there is a lot, and still there is a lot of development to do in terms of technology, because we all can see some of, let's say, crashes or something like that is done by the vehicles. So we need to make sure that they are as safe as possible until we have the level 5 where the car just works on its own. At the moment, we mostly need to have a human interaction. We need a driver, but the progress that it was made since 2005 to now, it's mind-blowing. And the interesting part is that the technologies are developing even more rapidly at the moment, because there's more and more people that are working on this. There are more and more people that let's say have the capacity and understanding how to do things with technology. And I think a very good example of that, where we are going, is, let's say, when I was a kid and we were, let's say, discussing cars with friends, we were speaking about 0 to 60 times. We were speaking about top speeds and things like that. I have a nephew that is about 7 years old, and when I'm speaking with him about cars, so he's speaking about how he can connect his smartphone What's the infotainment system? Does it has Android Auto, or does it have something else? It's a completely different story, and it's a completely different reasons why people are, or let's say kids, are getting excited about the cars. Before it was horsepower, sound, and all that, and now it's more about the technology, the amount of work that people put in to create something special that we can use on daily basis.
Yeah, and I can relate to the speed and the sound. I've built many of engines and carburetors when cars had carburetors, and yeah, it was all about getting that little extra horsepower and getting the feel just right. I I'm a tech guy, but I can't imagine building a car. I almost said computer. Building a car now with all the tech that's in it. Can you maybe paint a picture for us and our audience of what the digital ecosystem looks like for a car? Maybe some of the components and the sensors, and I don't know, is cloud involved, and what's the
Mhm.
ecosystem, the infrastructure look like?
So pretty much when we are speaking about the autonomous car, of course, the main things are the systems that see what is happening, around the car. So you have cameras, you have lidar, radar, and all that, that pretty much needs to work in sync to make sure that the car is, well, that the car is able to see what is happening around it. And then you go, to the pretty much a computer on wheels, because it needs to understand what the data, what the sensors are showing, and what it needs to do next. And in terms of infotainment, and just looking from that point, again, there is a lot of software that is being developed from various companies, and everyone tries to see what's the best way to go around this. So it's a lot of work and a lot of different components that goes in, and about which we usually don't even think about because we don't see them. We just see the end result, that, let's say, the car can park itself, or that we can sit in a car, connect our phone to it, and, let's say, listen to our favorite podcast.
Yeah, I'm just like spacing right now because I'm following, growing up and breaking apart Vespas and scooters and kick them and and find a way. And now I don't even. Honestly, I never even probably opened the my car, like the engine compartment of my car, maybe to refill the liquid for the from the wipers. That's pretty much it. I wouldn't touch anything, and I'm not,
Yeah.
but it's incredible. It's incredible. But so our relationship with the tools have changed. I mean, the phone, if in a certain way, any kind of analog technology, if we want to look back in the past, like you could open a Walkman and break it apart
Yeah.
and fix it, maybe, but try to open an iPhone or any other, a Samsung or other smartphone, and see what can you do with it, right? So
Uh,
I'm wondering if a lot of conversation are actually going in that direction too. I mean, do you have somebody that talks about really the future, like where are we going with? Are
mhm.
we really expecting the car to honestly become our living room, where we can just sit in there and all we care is that there is a good TV, a good speaker, and I can connect my phone,
Mhm.
and I don't care how I'm going to get from point A to point B.
So actually, exactly one of our main panels will be about the future outlook. And in that panel, pretty much we are trying to have government, we are trying to have OEMs, tier ones, and, let's say, smaller suppliers, everyone speaking on the topic where we are going, from, both on the autonomous aspect and also the connectivity aspect of the car. Because without all these players, well, we cannot move forward. Everyone needs to be involved. Everyone needs to do their part in making sure that we are moving forward. And pretty much our event is all about that, to have the full value chain and let these really intelligent people together and speak and discuss what needs to be done in terms of technology regulation and all that to have these amazing things like, as you said, a living room on wheels where we can sit down and just do something else while we travel from point A to point B.
And what about the societal slash cultural aspects? Do you have any conversations, either formal or informal, in the hallway expected to take place? I'm thinking there's, and we could probably go back to the broader infrastructure again as well. It's not just having an autonomous car that's also electric. You
Yeah.
have to have the infrastructure that supports the car knowing where it is, not just from a GPS perspective, but what's around it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And including other cars and other vehicles that may be on the road, and perhaps even see other people. And then the consumer has to understand their role in that new world, right? It's not just
Yeah.
having an autonomous car and off you go. What is your role in can you afford it? Can you, how do you fit into the rest of society? Is it for cities? Is it for countryside? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that, and if you have any conversations planned to
Yeah.
cover some of that stuff?
So this is, I think, more. This is spoken more about, let's say, privately between the parties when they sit down, let's say, during the networking time, and they have ability to have these conversations, let's say, on the cultural side and how it's gonna change. But let's say in terms of infrastructure, the introduction of 5G is a huge step forward, because if we want to have let's say a whole traffic system that is communicating between each part of it, we're gonna need an immense amount of data transferred from one part to the other to another, and so on. In terms of, let's say, in terms of people and the consumers. So again, what we see, especially with the new generations, that they don't really want to own a car. We really can see that with shared mobility platforms are blowing up in different parts of the world, and we have scooters, we have cars, and so on. So the young generation, let's say Gen Z and so on, so they don't see a car as a thing they would like to own, but they see a car like a thing that they would like to use. They don't want a headache of, let's say, servicing the car or making sure that it runs. They would prefer just to open an app, sit in the car, and let the car drive away. I think we're still going to have a learning curve in terms of people adapting to this new concept of traveling, because it's really going to change a lot. But again, when you look at things like safety, the amount of time that you can use in better purpose, whatever it would be, work, relaxation, hobby, whatever, the time that you travel you can use more beneficially for yourself or for your family. So I think even though we're gonna have a learning curve among the users, in the long term, we're gonna see this, let's say, the situation that we are in right now. Like, we are seeing people that were driving carriages with horses. It's going to be the completely same view that, well, we need to use this. It's just more efficient and more better for everyone involved.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, just again, I cannot stop thinking back to the way we grew up, our generation, and the relationship with the car, and all the things we do. But I can see that. I mean, even now, I don't care as much anymore. I mean, it'd be nice to have a nice vintage car that is your little, and that I think that always will be there. There are always
Yeah.
going to be the people passionate about
Yeah.
a vintage car. I don't think that drivers, Formula One and NASCAR and rally are going to stop. I mean, I
Yeah.
think there'll always be that, but it's just not going to be probably for everyone. Before we go and talk a little bit more about the event, I have one more question that I want to pick your brain about, and all the things that's happening now. There was a news yesterday for pushing the EPA here in the United States on really pushing 2/3 of cars to be electric by, I think, 2032, something like that.
Yep.
And of course, there's those that are pushing back, those that are pushing forward. Is this going to be part of the conversation? I mean, are you have conversation with the government, European community, and at that kind of level too?
So we are discussing this more during the Green Auto Summit, where let's say we focus on the electrical vehicles and on the infrastructure, because again, when we are speaking about electric vehicles, we first of all we had this range anxiety when we didn't know that if we're gonna be able to make it to the charge point. Now what we see that we have a different let's say fear when coming to the charge point. We don't know if it's going to be available or working, and that's I think even worse. So there's a lot of things that needs to be worked out, but what we see in Europe, what we see in the US, that we have these spectacular numbers of chargers being installed throughout the years, and the amount of fast charging stations that are planned to be built and ready to use for the consumers. It's also really exciting, and it's pretty much the base on which the e-move is going forward.
Yeah, and I think that obviously that's a big part of the infrastructure, just the power supply and the supply chain in that respect. And speaking of supply chain, I know there's a couple talks on software development and sustainability, and I wanted to pick your brain on because you mentioned 5G, right? Which is all about telco connectivity, and when you connect software to that, software we know is API driven. Everything is open, right? You can use off the shelf components, open source components, commercial components, bring them all together, create something better. And with 5G and things like Open RAN, the hardware space is becoming a lot like that as well in terms of plug and play interoperability for systems. So either connected to the event or just in general, how do you see the future of kind of the world of openness and plug and play, where you have many vendors from the supply chain coming together to really push things forward?
Well, especially when we're speaking about connectivity, and let's say if we're speaking about software and pretty much having these vehicles as computers on wheels, the main thing is also cybersecurity. Because if we have something that you can hack, well, someone will try to hack it. That's just how it goes. So that's why we have, let's say, an expert from Carriad, the Volkswagen software company, that we're gonna present what they are planning to do, how we gonna make sure that these things are safe, and in terms of, let's say, having different suppliers or open hardware. Again, the COVID pandemic really showed that, well, we have some problems in automotive industry, and not only in it, regarding the supply chain. We need to be as diverse as possible, to have as many options as possible. Otherwise, when we have these unexpected events, well, everything will gonna stop, and the manufacturers and the suppliers, they cannot allow that. They need to collaborate, and they need to work this through. And the best way is to have an open source, not only for the software but as well for the hardware.
Yeah, very cool. And as you look at all the people that you have on the event, they're really coming and connecting. You have an idea of how large and wide is the ecosystem here. I mean, I think talking about the complexity again versus how simple it was, many components are coming into play now. Many more people and company that are specialized in something particular that you need to implement in the car.
Yeah.
Either is the lidar or is the camera or something else. I just don't see anymore the one company make it all right.
Yeah.
It's not that it ever been anyway, but
Yeah.
even more. So I would like to leave you a couple of minutes before we wrap this to make it kind of a call to action. If you want to highlight one of the talk that you really are excited for that to happen, and how can people get involved maybe for the next events? And you mentioned the electric one that you're going to have, so feel free to mention that as well.
So pretty much for the ICA summit, well, I'm not excluding any of the panels or any of the speakers. I think all of them is going to be really, really exciting, and they're going to bring value in a way that we're going to have different parts of autonomous and connected vehicles, presented during the event, during the presentations and panel discussions. So let's say people that are working in ADAS can more understand about connectivity and vice versa, because again, they need to work together to put everything in one package that then will be given to the consumer. So the event will happen on May 15th and 16th. If someone wants to register, they should go to ICA-summit.com, and they can see the speakers, they can see the program, and if they want to register, we still have a few available tickets for this event. And in terms of what we're gonna be speaking, about electrical vehicles, so that's gonna be happening in October on 24th and 25th in Stuttgart. So pretty much in a city where it all started, let's say. In the Car Benz arena, and we're gonna have a lot of interesting talks. Not only, let's say, about uh, electric cars that are battery based, but as well on hydrogen, because this is also another solution that can provide a lot of answers in different areas. So for that one, again, we're gonna have a executive panel speaking about the future outlook. We're gonna have talks about charging and in the infrastructure, and of course the latest technologies, what's gonna happen, and what we have right now on the table, because it really takes time for, let's say, to get from the idea to that idea put in the car.
That's great. And I hope that we get to chat again, maybe before, as we get closer to that event. If you want to come back, we can have a chat about that specific. And apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I honestly, sure, I mean, Sean and I like car, but I think this is a conversation that it should interest everyone, because either you drive it or you're a passenger, you have a family. I mean, the whole scenario is changing in front of us, and with that, the landscape of our cities and our street. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. Living in LA, it's a little too many cars on the road, in my opinion, but that's that's a different story. So, Michael, thank you so much. Best of luck for the event. For all the people listening, we will have all the URL. They can click and go on the website to learn more, connect with you if they want to, and we really appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Sean, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, looking forward to speaking with you guys again on different topics in the near future.
Absolutely. And for everybody
and
listening,
perhaps on location at some point as well.
Oh yeah, we want to
Exactly.
come. We'll come for sure.
That's right. Come visit you.
We come often in Europe, so there'll be an opportunity for sure. And for all the listener, either you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're listening on our podcast channel, again, hit subscribe, because there is a lot of other conversation coming up, and we hope you find them interesting. I know we did, right, Sean?
Absolutely. Always learning something. Thanks, Michael.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sean, Marco.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you learned something new and this story made you think, then share ITSPmagazine with your friends, family and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our columns. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.